Hello everyone! Happy September! You might notice that my camera is centered a little different today, and that's because I wanted to make sure everyone could see my new shirt! Look at it! It's Cemetery Tours! How cool is that? I got it from my Redbubble shop and I love it. I'm never wearing anything else. I actually have a few more things that I wanted to show you real quick. I started my Redbubble shop because I really love stickers, and especially like book quote stickers. And so I uploaded, this is one of the stickers I got, and this is one of the ones that you can find in the shop. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, "When you get involved with the paranormal, don't be surprised when the paranormal gets involved with you." And I'm pretty sure that's from After Death. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's from After Death. It's kind of sad I don't remember what quotes my own books are, or what books my own quotes are from, but I'm pretty sure it's After Death, which is the third book in the Cemetery Tours series. I have like a lot of stickers. I have like, you know, I Heart Cemetery Tours. I have a lot of character, like I Believe in Brink, who is the ghost from Cemetery Tours. I have I Heart Michael Sinclair. I have I Heart the entire boy band cast. But I decided to just get I Heart Trashy Romance Novel because I'm still very proud of that book and I still love it a whole lot. And I thought the sticker was cute. So yeah, it's so neat. I'll put a link to my Redbubble shop if you're interested. I also have a lot of pictures of like flowers and Scotland and animals, so you can check that out. But yeah, I was really excited about this shirt, and I honestly wanted to make a YouTube video not only celebrating the arrival of September, thus the Halloween season, because everyone knows Halloween is actually a 2-month-long holiday and not just one day, but just kind of to wear it and show it off because I think it's cool. So today, what I wanted to talk about besides my Cemetery Tours t-shirt is kind of my favorite Halloween things, my favorite books and movies that I read and watch to celebrate the season. And these are going to be in no particular order at all. And I'll probably, if this video isn't too long, I'll probably read the second chapter of Cemetery Tours at the end as well, because we're coming up on its 7-year anniversary, which is just so amazing. I love this book so much. I love everyone I've met through having written my books. It's just been a wild 7 years. It's been a wild 2020, that's for sure. But for the most part, it's just been the best experience of my life, and I can't wait for it to continue and for book events to come back so I can stop doing YouTube videos and I can actually get out and see y'all again. So, to celebrate the Halloween season, let's get started with, okay, this is actually, and these are, again, in no particular order. I grabbed all the stuff that I love and I just threw them into a stack and said, okay, this is how it's gonna happen. So, I've had this book, gosh, I've had to have had this since high school. I've had it for forever. The Everything Ghost book. I actually think I got it for Christmas one year. That tells you the kind of kid I was and the kind of person I still am today. The Everything Ghost book. And I read through it, and some of the stories in here legitimately creeped me out. Like, I feel like my sister and I have both been pretty desensitized to horror throughout the years. But there are a couple stories in here that actually kept me up at night. They were very creepy, and I actually used this book when I was researching for Cemetery Tours. I did a lot of reading before I wrote this book, and the next one I'm gonna have to do a lot more research because I'm getting into stuff that, I don't know how to say this without giving spoilers, but I'm getting into a lot of stuff that even I haven't really thought about before when it comes to the afterlife. So I'm really excited. I'm a Ravenclaw, so I love doing research. I'm kind of a dork. But yeah, so the Everything Ghost book, it's super creepy and I love it. So that's one. Okay, so the next is a movie, The Visit by M. Night Shyamalan. Okay, so I've been an M. Night Shyamalan fan since The Sixth Sense. I saw Unbreakable, but at the time that it came out, I was too young to really appreciate it, and I really haven't seen it since. I remember it. I remember Samuel L. Jackson is like Mr. Glass, and Bruce Willis is the Unbreakable Man, but it really wasn't horror, so I think that's probably why it didn't really like stick in my small child brain. But then when The Sixth Sense came out, I'll never forget the night I watched it. It was the night that it was like, I guess it was in 1999. It was the night that all those tornadoes swept through Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I remember that because my cousin was in college there at the time. And so my mom and I were sitting in the back room watching this terrifying movie about ghosts and keeping an eye on the weather, because we couldn't text at the time, keeping an eye on the weather to make sure my cousin was okay. But yeah, so I loved The Sixth Sense. I love Signs. That's another great movie. Oh my gosh. I don't care if you want to think that The Joker is Joaquin Phoenix's best work. No, Signs is definitely his best work. I love Signs. I loved The Village. Devil was pretty good. I couldn't get into Lady in the Water. I never saw Avatar, and from what I hear, that's not a bad thing. But then, you know, M. Night Shyamalan, he was great, and then I feel like there was like a period of time where he just really didn't do much, but then came The Visit, and my sister and I went to see it in the theater, and the whole time I'm wondering, okay, what is the twist here? It's got to be something paranormal. What is it? And then when I found out the twist, oh my god, I don't remember the last time I was that scared in a movie theater. So I have to say, job well done, Mr. Shyamalan. You are still the master, and I highly respect you for your storytelling like skills. I love this movie. It's terrifying. Okay, next. Okay, here's one of my controversial Halloween opinions. I love the female Ghostbusters movie, okay? I remember when it first came out, I was thinking, that looks stupid. I do not want to see this. I hate that they remade the theme song. You just do not mess with that theme song. But, you know, I liked that there was a 5 Seconds of Summer song in it. I still love that song. That's a great song. But, oh man, I just did not want to see this. But my sister did. And so she dragged me kicking and screaming to the theater. And I went in with the worst attitude, thinking this movie's going to be so stupid. And I loved it. It is hilarious. It is so much girl power. Oh my gosh. I love the whole cast. I especially love Leslie Jones, and I love Kate McKinnon. Oh my gosh, Holtzman is definitely my favorite. And, oh, and I mean Chris Hemsworth. Oh, yay for Chris Hemsworth as Kevin, the silly blonde receptionist. Oh my gosh, I loved everything about this movie. And then the critics and everyone hated it, and I'm sitting here going, how can you hate this? I mean, I know I went in with a terrible attitude, but oh my gosh, I love this movie. I think it's better than the originals, so sorry, unpopular, controversial opinion, but it's there. I love this movie. It's so great. Girl power forever. The only thing that would have made it better is if Rick Moranis had made an appearance. Next. Okay, we're going back to books. And I've mentioned my dear friend Miracle Austin before, but I wanted to bring up her books again because they are perfect for the Halloween season. Doll, this is a series. There are 3 books in the series, and it follows a group of high school kids who want to kind of get back at the mean popular girl, and so they visit a descendant of a voodoo priestess in New Orleans, and they get a voodoo doll. And oh my gosh, Miracle is just the most wonderful, amazing person. I mean, as wonderful and amazing a writer she is, she's an even better person, and I will support her until the day I die. She also has this book called Boundless, and oh man, see, I keep trying to hold this up so there's no reflection, but oh, look at that. There's a lot of reflections here. We're in the middle of a bunch of storms here, which I love. We very much need them because it's making the weather cooler, and I just love storms in general. But it's making the lighting all weird. Anyway, so Boundless is an anthology. It's a collection of her short stories and poetry, and it's just so much fun, and so many of the stories are so creepy, and it's like you meet Miracle and you think, how does this come out of you? You're so sweet and like the human embodiment of glitter. I don't understand how you can write such creepy stories, but I highly recommend Boundless as well. So yes, look up Miracle Austin. Next, a classic, Scooby-Doo. I cannot celebrate Halloween without at least a couple of Scooby-Doo movies, and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is definitely the best one. It is the original. It is a classic. I grew up in the 90s, so while I grew up with like the Scooby-Doo cartoon, I really, really loved this movie and the movies that have come after it. I love the live action Scooby-Doos as well. I haven't seen Scoob yet just because I had some issues with their casting. I don't have an issue with Zac Efron, but I have an issue with how they treated the original cast members. So, and I don't know, I watched the CinemaSins video, it didn't look very good, so I probably won't see that. But Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is where it's at. I just love Scooby-Doo. Ooh, next, this is a book that my sister recommended to me, and honestly, most of my book recommendations I get from her. She is very, very well read. And this book is called A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But basically, it's about a family, and their oldest daughter may or may not be possessed. And there's like a full-blown exorcism, and it's so... What's creepy about it isn't even the paranormal aspect. It's the fact that it's told from the little sister's perspective, and just what she had to live with this older sister, like, sneaking into her room and being very, very creepy. And the end, the twist at the end, oh my gosh, it is actually disturbing. This book is not for the faint of heart, but if you love a good creepy story, highly recommended. Let's see what's next. Oh, okay, so we're going from an adult book to another childhood favorite, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. My sister and I at one point owned all 3 of these books, but I can't find the third one, which is the best one. So I'm gonna have to just rebuy the whole series, I think. They made them all nicer and put them all together in one giant book. I think I'm just gonna have to invest in that because I love these books. And also, here's one of my bragging moments. My friend Jonathan Mayberry, who is the author of the V-Wars, the Vampire Wars books that inspired the Netflix series, as well as the Joe Ledger zombie series. He is today publishing an anthology called Don't Turn Out the Lights, and it's like a tribute to the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. And there are a lot of different authors who contributed. R.L. Stine is actually one of them. And so that's cool, and I can't wait to read it because if I know Mr. Mayberry, it's gonna be creepy. So I'm very excited, but I'll always go back to these books. And you know, like the stories are creepy, but wow, it's the drawings I think that really will give you nightmares. These are some creepy drawings for kids. They're creepy drawings for me right now as a 32-year-old. I mean, oof, yeah, love these books. Okay, the next is actually nonfiction. It's Ghost Hunters by Ed and Lorraine Warren. I'm sure most of y'all have heard of the Warrens. They were the very famous ghost hunting couple that inspired the Conjuring movies, which I love. And, you know, they did the Amityville case. They, Annabelle, who recently escaped. That was really funny. I know it's not true, but I kind of wish it was. Yeah, so I've looked up to them for a very long time, and I have 4 of their books, but so far this one has been my favorite, Ghost Hunters. It's very, again, it's one of those books, like, I read it and I had to sleep with the light on because some of the stories in here were just that creepy. And oh my gosh, so unfortunately I wrote Cemetery Tours before I read these books. I would have loved to have read these before I wrote it, but at the time I couldn't find them anywhere. They only recently, I feel like, became available, like, on Amazon. So I have 4 of these books. I love them. I still very much look up to Ed and Lorraine Warren because I think they're so cool. Yeah. Oh boy. Next, the best Halloween movie of all time, Hocus Pocus. I've actually already watched it once this year because in quarantine I needed some Halloween. And I remember the first time I ever watched this movie. It was 1993, so I was 5, and my cousin had me over at her house, and she was like, "You're gonna love this movie." And at first I started watching it, and when I saw the book with the eyeball, whew, I was scared. And she goes, no, it's fine, it's fine. And so I thought, okay, I believe you. Kept watching. And then when Billy came, I remember I was so scared of him, and she assured me, no, he's good. So she had to, a couple times, she had to talk me down and say, no, this is a good movie, just keep watching. And I'm so glad I did, because to this day, it is still my absolute favorite Halloween movie, as I'm sure it is for so many people. And okay, so here's my controversial opinion though with Hocus Pocus. There has been talk now for a couple of years, actually, I think, about a sequel. They even released a book that was a novelization of Hocus Pocus, and it included a short, like a novel of the sequel, Hocus Pocus 2. And I know everyone in the Hocus Pocus fandom is so excited for a sequel. I haven't read it, but I have a lot of doubts, and that is my deep dark Hocus Pocus secret, is that I do not think we should get a sequel, and I will tell you why. First of all, this movie is perfect. You cannot improve upon this story. It is absolute perfection. I do not understand how you could possibly bring the witches back. They turn to dust. That's it. The spell is broken. I just don't see it. And if you do bring it back, the actresses, I love them all very much. They're going to be a lot older than they were in 1993. And so you can't get them back to this. And I mean, I guess that's fine. You could always have the witches be there, like, in their true form, like, you know, I don't know, as older. And okay, I'm saying this, I have nothing against, you know, like, the idea of older Sanderson sisters, but it's just, I don't know, you can't get this back. Second of all, I don't think that Allison and Max were gonna last as a couple. I really don't. I'm sorry, I never thought that. I thought they were, like, friends for Halloween, and they had that night in common, and they were trying to, you know, get these witches back. But I don't see them being long term. I certainly don't see them getting married or having kids. You know, I don't think that's gonna last. Sorry. Another thing, you can't bring Binks back, because he's moved on with his sister. So you're not going to have a cute talking black cat. You're not going to have a 15th, 16th century cute boy with the blonde ponytail and the white flowing shirt. You're not gonna get him back. I mean, oh, and by the way, like, I had a crush on him when I was a child. Like, I loved him because he looked like a Hanson brother. So when I watched this as a kid, I was like, yay, Thackeray Binks. But yeah, you're not gonna get him back. And Billy, I mean, you could definitely dress Doug Jones up again in his zombie clothes, but to what purpose? Like, why are we raising him up again? It doesn't really make sense from a writer's point of view. So, I mean, like, everything that made this movie good, the cute talking black cat, the Sarah's weird, like, oh, I'm beautiful, boys will love me, the romance, I mean, just, I don't see any of it. I guess you could bring Thora Birch back, but Danny was an annoying kid. I mean, hopefully she's a better adult. I don't know. I'm really sorry. I just don't think it's gonna work. Maybe Disney will prove me wrong, but, you know, my friend Kara, she goes, you know, you need to trust in Disney. And I said, Disney lost my trust with the live-action Beauty and the Beast movie. I'm sorry. I mean, they gained a little bit back with Aladdin, but... Alright, so that was a much longer rant than it needed to be. I love Hocus Pocus. I am very, very skeptical when it comes to the sequel. Okay, next. This is actually a book that I haven't read in a while, but I remember it being so creepy. It's called Pen Pal by... oh, shoot. I don't know how to pronounce this name at all. Dathan Auerbach? Is that how you pronounce it? But anyway, this book is amazing. I think it's small press, but it's so creepy. It's about a kid who gets these letters from a stalker, basically, and it's terrifying. This is a terrifying book, y'all, and I can't say too much about it without, like, giving spoilers away, but if you like really, really creepy books, highly recommended. Next! Okay, so we're gonna go back to Paranormal Investigations for a minute. The Ghost Adventures original documentary. I think I've talked about my love for Ghost Adventures before. I started watching this series the day after my cat died, back in 2010. Wow, so it's almost been 10 years that I've been Ghost Adventures fan. Wow, that makes me feel so old because I feel like I like just started watching them yesterday. And I love the series, but oh my gosh, the original documentary, some of the evidence they capture in here is actually, it sends chills down your spine. And I highly, if you haven't watched it, if you're a fan of the show and you haven't watched the original documentary, highly recommend this documentary. It's just so creepy. And I think I mentioned before that the Ghost Adventures crew definitely inspired the Cemetery Tours crew and Cemetery Tours that inspired my my ghost hunter character, Luke Rayner. So, thanks, guys. Oh, my stack down here is falling apart. Oh no. Alright, let's see what's next. Ooh! Okay, so Insatiable by Meg Cabot. I love this book. It has a very special place in my heart because I actually read it in Scotland. I feel like I've talked about this before on the blog or on the YouTube video, but I honestly don't remember. But it's basically a retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula in the modern age. And the first one is amazing. The second one was pretty okay, but I love the first book. I love the vampire boyfriend. Oh, it's so good. And I just love Meg Cabot. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. She is who I want to be when I grow up, or at least I want her to be my cat's godmother. She's just awesome. I love her. Highly recommend Insatiable. Man, my stack is just making a mess. Okay, so here's another book. It's paranormal romance. This book, so fun fact, it's Inescapable, the first book in the Premonition series by Amy A. Bartol. And I gotta tell y'all this. I found this book at half price at the clearance shelf for $1. I paid $1 for this book, and I thought, I read the back, and it's about a girl who falls in love with kind of like a dark angel, and she finds out that she is part angel herself. And I know that angels aren't super like Halloween, but oh my gosh, it's such a fall, it's a fall book to me, and I loved it. I took a chance on it because I found it for $1, and now I have the whole series, and I've read the whole series, and it's just very good. I love it. Okay, we only have a few more books. Okay, we have one more movie and 2 more books, which actually I contributed to, so, you know, there's not much to say except that I love them. Anyway, but my last Halloween movie, which is a must, is Misery. I love Stephen King. I love it, and I love the new It movies, not just because I have a crush on Bill Hader, but I love the It movies. They're great, but Misery is still my all-time favorite Stephen King movie. And I mean, I think what I love most about it is its simplicity. I mean, the thing is, it's a complex story, but it's so simple. It's like a writer gets kidnapped by a serial killer who happens to be his biggest fan. It's brilliant, and it's so well acted with James Caan and Kathy Bates. Oh my gosh, I just love this movie. It's my absolute favorite Stephen King adaptation. So yeah, Misery, could watch it every day, honestly. Okay, so finally we're down to a couple more books. The Lurking series, I highly recommend, and again, I contributed to these, so I'm a little biased, but there's Lurking in the Deep, there's Lurking in the Mind, and there is Lurking in the Shadows. So they're great books with a lot of creepy short stories. I highly recommend all of these. I think I keep saying that. I sound like a broken record, but they're just good, creepy Halloween fun if you're looking for short stories. And if you're interested in my short stories, I know I've read to you from this book multiple times. Broken Mirror, you can find all the stories that I've written for those anthologies in here, plus a couple of others. Again, I think I've read, what have I all read from here? I've read Writer's Retreat, I've read, and I've read Instinct. Have I only read 2? Okay, so I've only actually read 2 of these stories to y'all on my YouTube channel. But you can find the rest here. There's one, my favorite story in here actually isn't from one of the Lurking books. I actually wrote a crossover story, and it's a crossover between Boy Band and Cemetery Tours. It's where the boy band cast watches Cemetery Tours on Halloween, and then they decide to get a Ouija board, and then later on you see Michael and Kate and Brink at a The Kind of September concert. I had so much fun writing this. So if you like boy band and Cemetery Tours, check out Broken Mirror, because there's a crossover story at the very end, which I loved. Okay, so those are my Halloween essentials. This video is already 30 minutes long. I am sorry. But here, I'll read chapter 2 just real quick. I don't think it's that long. No, it's not that long. And I hope y'all enjoy it. And again, I'm going to try to start getting back into the YouTube videos, especially with Halloween in September, or especially with Halloween right around the corner, and I love spooky stuff so much, and you know, I have a whole ghost story series, so I really want to share it with y'all. So this is chapter 2. Remember, Michael has just helped, or is in the process of helping Kate and Gavin, his new neighbors, move into their apartment, and he has just seen a ghost standing in Gavin's bedroom. Chapter 2. He'd seen them for as long as he could remember. They'd never scared him, really. When he was younger, he hadn't known that there was anything different about them. By the time he was old enough to figure out that no one else could see them, he was also old enough to realize that being dead didn't turn people into monsters. It just meant that most of them were lonely. This guy scared him. He was tall, almost as tall as Michael, who towered above most people at 6'2", and muscular, something that Michael couldn't boast. His dark hair was buzzed short like an army crew cut, and he wore dark navy jeans, a gray t-shirt, and an old black jacket. As intimidating as his physical appearance seemed, however, nothing compared to the fury and repulsion with which he stared at Gavin Avery. "Michael?" Kate's voice snapped Michael out of his stupor. "Are you all right?" "Yeah, fine." He wasn't fine, though. His voice had gone hoarse, the same way it always did whenever he tried to choke out a lie. He cleared his throat and assisted Kate and Gavin setting the mattress against the wall. No matter how he tried to convince himself otherwise, he could feel the stranger's eyes boring into the back of his neck. Although he didn't think the ghost had noticed him staring, he didn't want to draw any sort of attention to himself. This was the reason he never complained about the strange noises or feelings of discontent that plagued the other residents of Building 17. He'd always been a terrible liar, and anyone observing him too carefully would realize that when he said he had no explanation for the weird things that happened, he wasn't telling the truth. Once ghosts figured out that he could see them, they followed him home. Over the years, he'd gotten better at ignoring them, tuning them out, but there was always the occasional slip-up. He'd respond to an otherwise unheard voice, or accidentally make eye contact with someone who'd grown accustomed to being invisible. That was when the trouble started. Michael had learned the hard way that nothing good came from interfering in the affairs of the afterlife. He'd always been careful not to let anyone know what he could see, but everyone, from his classmates to his own mother, knew there was something off about him. Their suspicions were somewhat confirmed after he was arrested as a suspect in a murder investigation at the beginning of his senior year of high school. The charges were quickly dropped, but still the damage had been done. Now, whenever spirits followed him home, he ignored them. This was frustrating for all parties involved, but especially for the ghosts. They knew he could see them, but when he didn't acknowledge them again, they grew agitated. Some of them went crazy, throwing pots and pans around, or heaving books off of shelves in desperate attempts to get his attention. They usually gave up and moved out after a week or so of being ignored, but some of them, the more annoying ones, tended to linger. Some acted out of spite, some out of boredom. Some flat out refused to move on for reasons that Michael could never figure out. Maybe they were waiting for someone, or maybe they were scared of crossing over. Michael could accept that. Still, he would have preferred they not make his apartment building their halfway house. Thinking back to everything Kate had told him about Gavin, his mysterious ailment, even the break-in, Michael knew he should have realized that those were the products of a haunting. He'd experienced the same symptoms of dizziness and exhaustion on multiple occasions. Spirits thrived on energy. It was how they moved heavy objects or manifested themselves to those who otherwise wouldn't be able to see them. They took this energy from any source they could find: electricity, radio waves, even the living, especially the living. Michael had always been particularly susceptible to their attacks. He had a theory that since his mind was already so open to the spirits, it made it easier for them to drain his energy. He wasn't sure if that was what was happening, or if all the physical exertion was finally catching up with him. But all of a sudden, he felt dizzy and lightheaded. He broke out into a cold sweat, and without warning, the ground began to tilt. "I need to go," he announced abruptly. He concentrated all that remained of his energy on not falling over as he stumbled out of the room. "What's wrong?" Kate asked, eyeing him with obvious concern. "I'm sorry, Kate. He took a deep breath and willed himself to stay conscious. "I really don't feel well, and I need to go. I'm sorry." He turned to leave, and in doing so, brought on such an intense wave of vertigo that he tripped over the leg of one of the bedside tables he helped to carry up. Everything blurred as he toppled to the ground. "Michael!" Kate shrieked. "Oh my God, are you okay?" "I'm fine. I'm sorry. I just need to go." He stood much faster than he should have. Tiny white stars exploded in front of his eyes, and he definitely twisted an ankle, but all he wanted was to get out of the apartment. "Well, thank you for all your help," Kate called as Michael half-hobbled, half-sprinted out onto the landing. As soon as he closed the door behind him, the dizziness began to subside. He leaned against the wall and took several deep breaths. That was close. No, that wasn't close. That wasn't even remotely close. Close would have been making it out of the apartment before a malevolent spirit drained him to the point of semi-consciousness. No, what had just happened had been a near bona fide disaster. Kate and Gavin must have thought he was a complete basket case. He was just lucky that his ankle had been the only casualty of his undignified departure. He didn't have to wonder why the ghost had drained him so quickly. He'd obviously been thriving off of Gavin's waning energy for months. So why didn't he take Kate's energy? From what Michael could tell, she was as healthy and energetic as anyone he'd ever met. Even ghosts with a vengeance usually didn't discriminate over whose energy they used. Maybe this one had a chivalrous streak. It wasn't unusual for ghosts to attach themselves to a specific person either, especially if they'd known that person in life, or if their unfinished business concerned that person. Whoever this guy was, he'd known Gavin, and judging by his hostility, it hadn't been a pleasant parting. Out of all the ghosts Michael had met in the last 27 years, only about a quarter of them were unaware of their passing. He had a few theories for this. Those who died of natural causes such as disease or old age usually had a fairly good idea that death was coming for them. That gave them time to prepare, to make peace with everything that might hold them to this realm or world or whatever, so that by the time they did die, they were able to pass from one life to the next without any sort of delay. The ones who stuck around were usually the ones whom death had claimed unexpectedly. Brink, for instance. One moment he was skateboarding around his high school parking lot, the next he was gone. Unfortunately, the ones who'd lost their lives in traumatic experiences, like Brink at his skateboarding accident, were the ones who looked death square in the eye. They knew what happened, they couldn't forget, and they couldn't move on. So they stayed until something or someone could bring them peace. The remaining few seemed oblivious to their own demise. They were the ones Michael pitied the most, those who hadn't seen death coming at all. Perhaps death had come in the form of a heart attack, or maybe they'd gone to bed one night and had simply left their body behind the next morning. Whatever the reason, they were left alone, confused, and in denial. Michael often cursed himself for ignoring them, for being such a coward, but he couldn't do anything that might make history repeat itself. With a heavy sigh, he walked back to his apartment and flopped down onto the couch. Brink appeared almost instantly. "Well, you were gone a long time," he remarked as he took a seat, cross-legged on the coffee table. "Yeah," Michael replied shortly. 18-year-old Eugene Brinkley, otherwise known as Brink, was the only ghost besides his grandmother with whom Michael willingly communicated. They'd met while Michael was still in high school. Of course, Brink was already dead by then. It had been too depressing for him to hang around his house, and since he'd vowed to keep an eye on his younger siblings, both of whom attended the same high school, he spent most of his time there. After they graduated, he'd somewhat moved in with Michael. Brink had died in the early 90s, and his appearance reflected it. His blonde hair fell in messy bangs across his forehead, and he wore baggy jeans and an unbuttoned plaid shirt that hung loosely to reveal a white undershirt. "So what are they like?" Brink asked. "From what I can tell, cursed." Briefly, Michael told him all about Kate, Gavin, and their seemingly relentless streak of bad luck, including their ghostly visitor. "Wow," Brink said. "For the first time, you're not going to be responsible for all the crap that happens in this building. That's what you got out of all of this? What else is there? So they're haunted. Aren't a lot of people haunted?" "Not like this." This guy looked like he wanted to kill Gavin. "So what, do you think Gavin murdered him?" Michael didn't want to go that far. Gavin didn't seem the type to kill someone. Of course, that didn't necessarily mean he wasn't capable. In fact, Michael had learned in one of his psychology classes that psychopaths often taught themselves to mimic emotion and feign charisma in order to gain trust. But Michael had spent several hours with Gavin, and although he was sociable enough, he wasn't off the charts charismatic. "Whatever he did, I don't think it was good," Michael finally answered. "Maybe he did it in self-defense," Brink suggested. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you said this guy looked like bad news, right? What if he attacked Gavin first? Or Kate?" It made sense, although the more Michael thought about it, the more he realized it was only one of the countless I'm sorry, I've been talking too much. The more he realized it was only one of countless possible scenarios. The guy could have been a stalker. He could have been a former friend. Maybe Gavin stole something from him, like a girlfriend. Maybe his death was accidental and Gavin had somehow been at fault. And where did Kate fit in? She seemed to care immensely about her brother. She obviously worried about his health. Did she have any idea he was connected to this dark spirit? Would she recognize the man if she saw a picture of him? Would the ghost eventually hurt her to get to Gavin? It was all too much to figure out in one sitting. "I don't know," Michael finally answered. "I guess anything's possible." So if you want to read the rest of Cemetery Tours, it is available on Kindle Unlimited. I will add all the links down to at the bottom of this video. And until next time, have a happy September. Bye.